All right, we're here at the Enhow Hotel by IBC. It's IBC 2025 at Dawson Taylor.
Andy Cochran.
And we've just done 2 days at the HP booth, curating the booth and inviting guests to come and speak at the booth, doing a very educational series of talks for the event for HP. And my first time at IBC.
Same. My first time. You've been to Amsterdam before. I've never been to Amsterdam before.
Many times.
So, first time Amsterdam, first time IBC. And it's somebody else said it, but I was already kind of thinking it that like, this is the NAB of Europe. And it does.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the closest comparison to any other conference that I've been to. It's very obviously broadcaster centric, but also just the mix of cameras, lenses, support, mixed in with pre-production, post-production, distribution. It seems like it's closer to NAB than just about anything that I've experienced. And it is
bigger in a sense. It's difficult to figure out because it's very labyrinthine.
Yeah, I don't know if you took the number of attendees, the number of exhibitors, and the volume. I don't know which one is bigger.
No, it's true.
But this one has
more rooms,
and there
14 of them.
I think I told you this today when I was walking. The HP booth is in Hall 7, which is kind of, you have to go through not all the other halls, but many of the other halls.
Most of them, yeah.
I went from Hall 1 to 6 to 7, and it's because like the other ones are off to the side or whatever. So it's just perpetually lost.
But it's awesome.
But also never lost, like pretty direct, like it's easy, it's well laid out, but it does make it very difficult to sort of feel like you can step back and see the size of the whole thing.
It's true. Yeah. Hard to get perspective on how big it is. It feels big though. Yeah. There's a lot of things there, a lot of different companies, a lot of different technology.
And it's NAB and even to a smaller degree, SIGGRAPH and other ones, especially CES, they are generally segmented by types of companies, types of activities or whatever, like at CES, the TVs are all generally in the same place and the cameras are all generally in the same place. And NAB is definitely similar. Here, it's a little less clear. Like what hall am I in right now? Am I in the post-production software hall? Am I in the computers? Am I in the cameras? And not necessarily in a bad way. I would say it actually feels like you discover things more.
True. Yeah. NAB in Vegas, there's like whole big halls that sometimes you don't go in.
Yeah.
Just because it feels like too much of a commitment. Whereas here you have to go through the maze and you get a bit lost. So it makes you go into other bits you didn't go before.
Well, and also, even we've been at the HP booth, but the booths around are it's not like it's, HP and Dell and Lenovo and, all of the computer companies right next to each other. It's, there's Blackmagic over there. They're not computers at all. And, Stipe right next to it and stuff. They're not computers at all.
Yeah.
So there's a interesting sort of, it feels like a rounded meal.
Right.
A balanced rounded meal of as you're walking around, you start to.
A bit like dinner last night.
Yes.
Thank you, HP. It was awesome. Like long 13 courses of Brazilian, Japanese
fusion. It was amazing.
It was a bit like NAB in a meal.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Fantastic.
It was a lot.
And we got to see a little bit of Amsterdam being in there.
In the canal area. Yeah.
And which is a maze too. Like
it's also a maze. It's amazing.
Levels of maze.
But it's definitely, so far, like, I feel like I have seen or discovered more than I usually do at other conferences. It's more of a melting pot or
mixing
better.
Things up. Like this hotel that we're staying in, where the lifts and corridors are all like 45-degree angles, and they have a random number generator in the lift, so you end up on some different floor that
and even like you can never find your room necessarily. It's
every time.
It's actually fascinating because it's like every 5 floors is rotated 45 degrees.
That's right. Yeah.
So
it's not even the same.
So it's not even like, that corner of the building is facing that corner of the building. It's just like you're just lost at all times.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
It's intentional. And I remember it being like that when I was here, when I was younger too.
the whole city, a little lost. It's the unofficial motto. Amsterdam, you're going to get a little lost.
That's true, but you're going to have a good time.
But you're going to cover
creative experience because mixing everything up. Sometimes I think you can formularize things too much and put things into too much of a groove. Like streets in most of America, they're all on a grid, and you kind of know where to go based on that.
And it gets boring too because
it creates. I think if you have to go a circuitous route somewhere, then it makes you bump into more things, and that's, I guess, what creativity is all about. Is about combination and bumping into more stuff. We're getting very philosophical.
I know. I was going to loop it back to IBC in that.
That's right.
I'd heard of it before and been encouraged to get involved, in previous years. I would say one of the more unique things that IBC does is the Accelerator Program, where there's actually a hackathon running as well too.
Right.
Like just way too much time commitment to but I would like to kind of check that out. But the Accelerator Program is pairing really large corporations, Verizon scale, corporations, with all the way down to a single person, artists, consultants, technicians, and companies of varying sizes, in between dozens to hundreds of people on a single project, and doing sort of, like, hey, and it's on the companies to kind of, to a certain degree, self-assemble and be like, we really want to work on, I don't know, like using chatbots in VR. And so they'll get a headset company or, a VR platform company, and, maybe some like a AI company or whatever. And that group assembles and spends, I think it's in January or February is the deadline for the submissions. So they'll spend all the way until September, just sort of working on kind of an MVP, POC, sort of just,
cool.
Like just
making
a little project.
Making a thing.
But out of that come not just real products or ecosystems or platforms, but like actual partnerships where now this really large corporation is working with this very small corporation, kind of as equals and, as partners, that then beyond IBC, then IBC is where they present it. And there's a lot of networking and kind of, describing it. The Tang Velcro byproduct of NASA, the Tang byproduct of IBC does seem to be these sort of industry moving, not just sort of like, hey, check out this new tech from this one company, which is pretty much every conference is about.
Yeah.
Check out this new tech, this new integration, this new partnership that we made. IBC made it. And I think that's a pretty big deal and a pretty big difference, at least to me, between this and other conferences.
Yeah, definitely. Not every conference for sure makes stuff or tries to create something.
Very few
at the event.
Sometimes there's a little something of co-creation or incubation or acceleration, but definitely is. And even there's an entire hall, the hall 14 is
where Chaos Arena is on display.
See it.
Yeah, it's happening.
But
share a little clip about that as well
coming up. The Hall 14 reminds me of the spirit of SIGGRAPH's emerging tech. But SIGGRAPH, the emerging tech, is only students. It's very small companies, but it's not products. It's experiments. And they shove it in the basement, literally sometimes if they have a basement. But they very much push the emerging tech to the fringe. And they have the papers, and that is emerging tech. But the specific kind of that SIGGRAPH, like, these are weird things. I remember the first HDR display I saw was the SIGGRAPH Emerging Tech Hall.
That's cool.
15, 20 years ago, whenever it was. It was the first 10-bit HDR display.
I was in the Weird Things room. 2008, the Sancho plan got accepted into the creative zone. We had an installation in there for the event. What? Actually, that year it was fairly near the entrance. It was just to the left when you came in.
Okay.
It was
good traffic.
Got good traffic.
Okay. Yeah, because I've always found myself at SIGGRAPH feeling like this is a shame.
Yeah.
Or, this is like such a cool thing. And I wish, like I said, HDR displays are now ubiquitous. The tech that they had, and it's enormous, like the depth on the thing. But
Rip your wall off.
well, the tech was a varying brightness backlight, which is how TVs work now. So like this like fringe idea in the basement, however many years ago that was now,
Caught on.
is the way you do it now. And I think IBC puts that stuff a little bit more in the front, and it's visible between the Accelerator and the Hall 14. There does seem to be a much stronger, it's not just awareness, it's encouragement of that fringe, of that, rough around the edges, not productized, not ready for prime time, not ready for production.
We need more of that and more places to be able to try stuff, experiment with stuff. That's how you find novel new things.
That's how the industry moves.
And with the last talk today was mention of
the Accelerator.
The Accelerator. Yeah. The talk about sustainability and in streaming, helping, and some really interesting comments at the end about how to reframe that and repackage it, because nobody buys sustainability. People buy efficiency or productivity, basically.
I love the way he put it, which was offsetting carbon is kind of meaningless to most humans. Saving electricity is like, that's saving tangible. Money. That's tangible, and it's actionable.
You can sell saving money. You can't sell being nice. Unfortunately.
Well, I mean, that's why Google took the "Don't be evil" out. There's no profit
sale there.
We can't tell you what we're not going to be. We got to tell you what we are. No, I did find that there was, and that's a great example of that kind of IBC Accelerator mentality of, we're not going to solve sustainability, but we're going to put
on
these,
a panel.
Especially not on a panel, but we're going to put these, I think it was 5 different groups together to just kind of look into it for 8 months.
Yeah.
And come up with some findings that's more than just very surface level. And I think they got into it out of a shared interest in recognizing a problem, which is streaming burns a lot of electricity. It's, like watching a TV show that's being streamed to you. There's a lot of pieces of that chain that are wasteful.
The way through the pipeline, all the format conversions.
All of it, storage, the transmission, and then I forget the gentleman that said it, but the point made was that there isn't really metrics on any of that. So really, like, what did they accomplish? I think they defined the problem more than like solved the problem. The problem was poorly defined as like, make it more efficient.
It's the first step. You got to admit you have a problem.
There, yeah.
What's caught your eye at the event, other than the weird hotel, which is actually lovely, but just very unusual.
It's got an amazing view.
It has a pretty badass view and great breakfast.
It's amazing breakfast.
17th floor.
But so I have not had an opportunity to really wander the halls enough.
Looking for bathrooms is really
just
hard.
Getting lost.
You can see a lot.
Well, it's like
so far away,
hobbling on my hurt foot. I've been pretty like goal oriented in my moves through the hall.
Coffee, bathroom,
food.
Yeah,
but I haven't seen anything where I'm like, that's groundbreaking new tech. It's to me, it's been more, in a good way, a little more holistic and a little bit bigger, wider view. I'm trying to remember. I think NAB was the last conference that I went to, and NAB 25 was my first NAB since maybe 2019, 2018.
Wow.
And even SIGGRAPH, I did LA and Denver, didn't do Vancouver this year. My impression, I to a certain degree, and not intentionally, but just I come out of every conference with a sense of how the industry is doing. SIGGRAPH 2009 was in New Orleans, and it was, just after Katrina, year and a half, 2 years after Katrina. So just visible destruction everywhere. It was so slow that year. SIGGRAPH was so poorly attended. The biggest gathering, the longest line I saw the entire week of SIGGRAPH 2009 was the line of people getting teapots from RenderMan. Half an hour, and that was it. And
Normally 3 hours.
it felt like the industry was dying, and in a lot of ways, it had. There were a lot of commercials.
Definitely gone through a bunch of
Yeah.
challenges over the years, for
Yeah.
sure.
How I felt at NAB this year was not bad. I didn't feel like it was nowhere near the 2009 SIGGRAPH. How I feel at IBC right now is very hopeful. I don't see necessarily, it doesn't feel like a gold rush. It doesn't feel like everyone's just overbooked. Everyone's just really absolutely crushing it and printing money. Like there have been booms like that.
It's not like an AI or crypto
No.
conference.
VR. It doesn't.
VR at the beginning of the hype.
Yeah, we're not. It doesn't feel like we're on like some crazy train and like everyone buckle up, But it does feel, I would say, more hopeful than a lot of what I've seen, over the last year and a half.
It's interesting because broadcasters, there's a lot of talk of AI coming in and replacing bits of this and that, whether it's visual effects or even production. I remember this one slide from AI LA, I think AI on the Lot, which said what survives in the age of AI, what are the things that persist. And some of the things I remember from that slide, which was memorable, were community and live. And
I agree with that.
blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And thinking about broadcast is inherently live, and whether it has a community as a part of it or not, probably more and less depending on which type of broadcast it is, but it's live. It's something which
there's rare that it's live without some audience. It's sports or any form of entertainment. Like it's very rare for something to be broadcast with, I guess, news, but even news, they get out into the community with cameras as much as they can.
It's really interesting talking to people as well about how that industry is changing, because I've been to a bunch of NABs now and now IBC, and one of the most interesting moments I've had was going to NAB New York, where typically this event and the Vegas NAB, everybody goes there specifically for the traditional broadcast world. At NAB New York, there was a whole section they'd built to serve the influencer and creator community. And I walked into that room and thought, honestly, that they had paid a bunch of young people to be there to make it look cool. But they were people, because people live in New York and they were able to walk in and participate. They probably wouldn't fly to Vegas to go do that, but a whole bunch of people would walk in New York to go do that. And it just occurred to me, like, that's the future of, or like a future of broadcast, because they're broadcasting. They're doing
absolutely
it through their own means. They're buying their own equipment. They're doing it through their own equipment and through their own distribution. And they still have to understand about how to break through the noise and get seen. But it really occurred to me that is a new form of broadcast that's coming out. And then I heard actually in the last couple of days that now I've seen people doing the news themselves effectively, like people, influencers are doing their own version of the news.
Yes.
They're maybe not flying to war zones and reporting, but they are doing their own version of reporting. And I've just been hearing very recently about people doing that in sports, and actually sports companies starting to license the camera streams so people can do their own shows.
That's interesting.
And I actually thought that might be a cool idea. I'm just hearing at this event, I've heard two people say that that's starting to happen.
It makes total sense.
Again, a lot of eyeballs, and they have a community, and they...
Well, and we've been talking, the industry's been talking about democratization, which I hate that term because we're not voting. There's like, it's not, like, I think it's the wrong term. I understand that, it is the correct word, but it just feels like the wrong description of what's happening. Because really, it's lowering barriers to entry. And it's making the equipment easier to use, cheaper, easier to get access to. And broadcast is uniquely not threatened, but uniquely threatened, for lack of a better word, by YouTube, etc., TikTok, Instagram, because previously nobody got to broadcast. Maybe you could go to a cable access channel, but even that you had to apply, and it took effort, and it wasn't free. But now it's like your cell phone that you already have is a full broadcast studio, and it's demonstrably not as good and demonstrably not as capable, but it allows you to get going. And I think what we're seeing, like you were saying, the NAB New York and stuff here, those folks that get in the door at that free level eventually want to get better microphones, eventually want to get a better camera, eventually want to learn a little bit more about editing, want to do better graphics. They start out on CapCut, they end up in Premiere or Resolve. They do grow up into
they want to get better at their craft, and the tools are evolving to the point now with a phone. This is being recorded on a phone, and we have these little microphones that are pretty good, and they're very easy to move around. This little stand this is on, this would have taken a film crew before. But
you would at least need a third person.
Yes.
And flying a third person to Amsterdam.
And
maybe to record us chatting, in front of the sunset, it would have meant that this wouldn't have happened.
And as you said, the software on the other end of it for post-production. Some of the talks that happened at HP was Resolve talking about how the studio is open.
Premiere and
the Adobe suite in general. Like everybody is trying to, you can see, make their tools easier.
Yes.
More accessible. The studio, I think they said there's now rentals for studio. So for $30 a month, rent it, which is, anyone could afford that pretty much.
It's very hard to say you can't just pay for a month of Resolve at that price. And even if you're not willing to, it's still free.
Yeah.
It's got some limitations, but
the premium version, which you can do most things in there.
It's like, I think just below 4K is the resolution limit, and can't do stereo, stereo.
Don't get
video.
the AI stuff.
You don't get all the AI tools, but I remember the first sort of professional documentary stuff that I worked on. The tapes had to be carefully trimmed, like interviews and stuff like that, and sent, to a transcription company to get back a transcript with time-coded timestamps
on parchment.
Yeah, no, and I don't even think it was emailed. I think it was only, hard copies. And then you would have to carefully pour through those. And I'm not saying that you don't have to do that anymore, but now, both Resolve and Premiere, you just drop it in and it gives you that transcript. So it skips that 2-week time delay between getting tape in hand and having transcript in hand to be able to effectively, edit that down. It's
getting easier. It's getting more affordable.
Astronomical.
It's making it possible for a whole new breed of people. Like CG was in the beginning. CG could only do it at ILM. That was it. And then it expanded to, as long as you've got $1 million. And then it expanded to, as long as you've got quite a lot of money. And now it's,
I think a seat of Maya was $15,000 when I started in visual effects, and I believe Houdini was $30,000 per seat. And so you would have,
and the machine it ran on was $100,000.
They were still using SGI when I started, so they were really expensive.
At least 50.
Yeah, and not that much better than other computers at the time either. There wasn't necessarily that they did all this. It was no, there was a surcharge for all this stuff, and it was because the companies making it were only going to sell a couple hundred licenses, and they needed to cover their development costs. But now you got Blender is free. That's insane. Resolve, it's not free, but Resolve is free. Blender is free, and there's a bunch of open source stuff, and Instagram, it's free. They've got their own editing program, so it is.
Yeah, Blender's becoming a really professional,
super professional
tool.
It's my favorite it's absolutely my favorite. I know, and I can see where it's deficient and where the $3,000, $5,000, dollar software is superior.
But there's also things that it does that some of the other software is not, bringing in the geometry nodes. Houdini has the cream of the procedural world.
But you don't have people giving away and selling for a couple dollars Houdini setups. You've got the Blender market. It's just hey, some guy, some kid in the Midwest, middle of nowhere,
figured it out.
Made a GeoNode setup that you can just download that'll fill a bookcase with books. And that one little tiny thing you needed to do that previously would have been, some artist working for however long to either model that or build it in Houdini. Now it's just like download it, use it. So yeah.
The two biggest things that I've looked for in the past while of computer graphics software have been innovation and community. Follow those two things. Blender, Houdini, Unreal Engine, some others, and some of the Adobe tools I think are coming on really well as well.
Yeah.
Those things have communities, and especially Houdini's community is really strong. And the Blender community is incredibly strong, like 14 million.
This is that. Jeez.
Or something.
Yeah, that's huge.
Something around that. Yeah, it's what keeps something alive is a community.
I think it's different now, but when VR was really starting out, that was the differentiator between Unity and Unreal for VR development. Was there's more Unity artists, there's more Unity tutorials, and there's a better sort of like official support. And I'm talking like 2015, 2016, and it was like Unity was free. At that level, go lower level. Unity was free, had more artists, had more documentation, more tutorials, and just hardware support also. And contrasted, Epic was like, it's all C++. You can hire a developer. You can write it. We won't stop you. And I think both had a very similar, very customer friendly, very supportive, emotional attitude. But I think there wasn't really a recognition at that time. That has changed significantly and has gotten a lot better. But it speaks to how important that community is. It's not the cost of your product. It's not the features of your product. It is
how healthy is your community?
Yeah. Are there enough people that know this, that you can build a team? Do they have enough access to information that they can solve problems that they've never encountered before, that somebody else has hopefully encountered? And is there a sort of an active official support for whatever hardware, whatever feature set or whatever? And I think that's what Blender ignored that for a long time and actually actively chose to be weird, right? With the right click select and sort of.
Must be some reason. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they decided they made decisions. They made decisions to sort of break conventions.
Yeah.
And held to them. And it wasn't until 2.8, 2.79, but 2.8, where Blender kind of listened. Instead of deciding what would be best, they built what they were being asked to do. And I think we're seeing that rapidly now with almost everybody. It's not an adapt or die situation, but it is a listen to your biggest fans.
Yeah.
They're begging you for these things, not because they're needy.
But they're telling you what they want, which is, and they're telling you how. If you listen to them and do that, then things could go well. I was really impressed with the bits of the Adobe stuff that I hadn't seen before, the boards.
Boards I'd heard about, but hadn't seen in action until today.
I used FigJam and Miro and stuff like that, as I love collaborating in real time, even through Google Docs and whatever. There's some of the stuff they've implemented in Photoshop as well.
Yeah.
Being able to load your own models, choose your model. You don't have to use Firefly. You can use Nano Banana or whichever one you want.
Are you being paid every time you say Nano Banana?
Yeah, I get a cent every time I say Nano Banana at IBC. I said it at least 18 times during my talk.
But it's a fun one to say.
I love how they called it Nano Banana and then
actually is a real name.
It's called this. And nobody liked that, so everyone's back.
Yeah, I knew. I don't know what the real name is. I only know Nano Banana.
Flash image 2.5,
perfect,
something like that.
Perfect, much better.
And I don't know what happens when it's like 3. If it's
the Nano Bananas,
just be called 3, or are people just going to keep calling it Nano Banana because they like it?
I think they'll call it Nano Banana 2, which is going to be really confusing because Nano Banana 2 is going to be.
It's really interesting because it's completely nonsensical, but everyone is so attached to it. They're just like, it's what they want to call it. Google don't call it that, but now they're like,
was that
calling
like,
it that.
Was that like was that like an internal
I think it. I can't remember exactly, but remember reading there was. I think it appeared somewhere else, and nobody knew that it was Google. So they had a code name for it or
I see.
something that was
I see.
Nano Banana. I don't know exactly, but you can Google it probably.
Not Google. You can
banana it.
You can DuckDuckGo it. DuckDuckGo will tell you the real story.
There you go.
As ChatGPT, it'll make up an amazing origin story.
That's right. Yeah,
it'll
be absolutely correct.
Yeah, it'll be confident.
It'll be creative.
It'll be confident. We can.
It will agree with you.
It'll be very sure. Facts, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
All right. Seeing as we're going into that subject, how much AI have you seen at the event?
I think you started to say something just a little while ago that I think it's a difference of broadcast, right? Which is not our world is tangential to broadcast, but it's not.
Yeah.
We've broadcast. We've worked in live events.
Yeah.
Like I've done VR stuff that was right next to the traditional broadcast, but it isn't our world or our part of the world per se. These are not our people, which it's not even that. It's just they are our people, but there is a different. Like my favorite,
a different culture.
It's a different culture.
It's a different culture.
And slightly different terminology.
Live events is also another culture. Like live events is where I came from in DJ.
And when I was at Sphere, that's live events. And now post, the last 5-6 years have been very live event centric.
Yeah.
But it is, I would say it's not the world we came up in.
No, visual effects.
Visual effects is not broadcast, but there's a tone here about AI that I've been like sarcastically annoyed for the last year and a half, where people are just
the last year and a half
about this one. I'm putting a time frame not on being annoyed, but on this topic
about
that. I think a lot of people in the entertainment industry are being absolute wusses about AI. Where it's if you have an anti-AI stance, stand by it and be honest about it. And I've seen people that are super anti-AI, but totally fine with that AI. So like really like borderline going to go stab somebody over Midjourney, but love ChatGPT. And their reason for hating Midjourney is it puts people out of work. And it's like, so does ChatGPT. In fact, GPT-3 started putting sports writers out of business before you even heard of Midjourney. So that sort of, it's not hypocrisy. It's this kind of weakness that I've seen in how people have been dealing with it. It's be pro, be anti, have your reasons, be consistent. That's fine. And so we've seen a lot of people over the last year and a half be like, I trained only on my own artwork. I built my own models, like human was always in the loop. And there's this apologetic sort of preamble to, and then I made this really cool thing that I'm very excited about and I love it a lot. It's like an embarrassment hidden behind this, like, no, don't attack me. Like I'm one of you. I'm one of you. I don't see that or hear that here in the broadcasters. When they are talking about AI, I'm not hearing a lot of I'm hearing it a little bit from the folks that are not broadcast folks, where they're like, oh, we're doing this thing.
It's kind of on everything. It's on all the.
They're using it for transcription. They're using it for, we saw a presentation today. Yeah. Ross Video was presenting how they're trying
voice control, motion graphics,
just calling up graphics based on AI analysis of text. I think
it's quite practical. It's quite seemingly very pragmatic and practical, not very hypey. Even the marketing stamp of AI on everything just doesn't feel overblown here. For some.
I think pragmatic's the word. It's everyone's saying it's just a tool, but we're saying it to try and calm down a rioting mob. And I think on the broadcast side, they're just like, it's just a tool. And this is the aspect of our bigger offering that we have sped up, enhanced, whatever with AI. I just don't see here any fear, any uncertainty, any doubt. They're practicing what everyone else is trying to preach of it's just a tool. It enhances human creativity. And I think that's been really refreshing because it's just like, I have found that many conversations over the last year and a half have been very disingenuous because it's like, oh, no. We're doing this for whatever reason, we're doing it differently and ethically. And so when we're not putting people out of jobs. And here, they don't have to say those things because there isn't an angry pitchfork mob coming to chop off their heads. They're saying, like, we're not putting anybody out of work. Hence, it's a tool. We're using it to enhance process. We're getting rid of, we're increasing productivity. We're getting rid of unnecessary processes, boring, awful things. So they don't even have to like caveat. And I think that is both refreshing and I really hope it's contagious. I hope for everyone.
It feels in general like a few years ago when this first started being talked about, this is not new, it's been around for a long time, but it's matured and being talked about for a few years, and people are very concerned, rightly fair to be concerned, it's fair to be cautious. But it feels like in general, a lot of people are trying to understand what the practicality of it is more than trying to run away from it.
Broadcast is in control of AI.
Yeah.
Like it's happening. It's happening to them. It's to a degree happening by them. It's affecting jobs. It's not getting rid of them. It's affecting them. It's changing jobs. It's affecting companies.
Well, I feel like it's not so different in visual effects. The visual effects disruption is not so much about the AI just now. It's more about the other factors, the industry itself.
But I think that VFX has like a boogeyman problem where
there's that as well.
VFX has been challenged especially in our market in Los Angeles for 15 years, and more.
Do you mean by the boogeyman problem, not the globalization aspect? You mean the like anti-CG?
There's a little bit of the anti-CG, but it's the
CGI losers.
No. That's part of the problem outward. We have a boogeyman inside VFX where there are these big globalization. It is globalization. It's subsidies and rebates primarily, but it is also audience pushback to a certain degree. It's quality control. It's everything. It's the studios with endless revisions and, trying to drive us out of business. Those are the real problems. But if you talk to most people, it's AI is the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a thing to point at.
And I think in the visual effects side, we've allowed those in power who are actually causing the problem to get our attention onto the boogeyman and get us really worked up and infight to a certain degree as well. On the broadcast side, what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, what I'm like feeling, it's very tangible. There's none of that. There's no, and it's not because like it hasn't come for them yet. It's because they saw it for what it was. They saw that it could help some things and hurt others, and they're steering it and controlling it.
I guess they haven't gone through those disruptions that you mentioned about.
No, they
through disruption. Different types of disruptions, in a sense.
It's not the exact same, but
they're still going through a lot of challenges, like the creator economy and it's eyeball switching towards
free, fast, cheap, and easy. Yeah, I mean, Mr. Beast is killing. He's not killing, but he's beating a lot of like the when web started, broadcast had especially like episodic, not sports and not more scripted, had a little bit of an existential crisis with web video in like 2005, 6, 7, 8, when it was ticking up and there was advertiser money and there was actual money to be had. It wasn't just views. And the existential crisis was you had TV shows getting a 1 share or a 2 share, and the Nielsen ratings was the only way of measuring those. And 1 share or 2 share, that's 1 million or 2 million views. Not for half an hour or an hour, but just at some point. And so the whole system was very rapidly threatened because a view on YouTube is not just tracked. How many seconds do they watch? What's the demographics? Was it a male, a female? What age group? What their IP was tracked. So where are they? So, Facebook now has been able to really target that in, but YouTube in particular was able to start pushing those metrics out. And so you had a TV show that had a 2 share whose clips on YouTube effectively had a 10 share. And there was that's an existential crisis. because the entire broadcast ecosystem was built on ad sales.
Yeah.
And so why am I paying 100, 200, maybe millions to run commercials on your network
it's just
against your shows
to get in front of people
when they're getting 10x for free? And so they've been suffering those existential threats for a long time.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that, and I think they're undergoing one currently with the influencer and sort of amateur.
Some of the amateur stuff is getting really
pro,
slick.
really pro.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And entertaining too. It's not just, it's not watched because it's free. It is watched because it's good.
Accessibility, again, there's so much more access to equipment, but for consumers, there's so much more access to that. People can reach an audience easily. Before they couldn't. They had to be published by someone or licensed by someone or employed by someone on a channel. Now someone can just decide to do something if it catches on. Some of the most crazy, weird stuff catches on and blows up.
Yeah.
Because people like watching it.
Well, I think that's, again, democratization, hate that term, but a lot of the generative AI and a lot of the cheap production, cell phone capture, free software, free distribution. You don't need to buy time on a satellite uplink anymore to distribute. There's there's a broadcast tower right there. That sort of lowering of barriers to entry and costs, the effect that is exciting about that is the minority voice that's empowered. And AI is similar, where it could be any type of minority. It could be, age, gender, sex, race, geolocation, voices that just don't have a path. The vast majority of people working in Hollywood are second or third or fourth generation in terms of, when you look at like percentage wise, the writers, directors, producers, it's like, yeah, that's so-and-so's cousin or son or, whatever. And it's not nepotism per se, but it is that it's the inherent nepotism of a very limited small pipe that requires this expensive pipe.
Sounds like nepotism.
It is nepotism, but it's not nepotism for nepotism's sake. It's just that when there's a massive barrier to entry and costs of operation, only the people that are already in the room are really able to get anybody else into the room. Now we're seeing, especially with YouTube and TikTok, it's not that little creators can have big audiences. It's people with ideas that don't make sense on a spreadsheet. If it costs $10 million to make something, you're only going to look for ideas that are going to bring in more than $10 million. But if it costs $100, just, a weekend of time, there's a lot of weird stuff that wouldn't
see the light of day. But it's interesting now seeing as well that Netflix, I can't remember the name of the show or the person, but Netflix have just recently hired a popular NASA engineer YouTuber to do a show.
Is that, it's Mark Rober.
There you go.
Yeah, Mark Rober just going. And he's fantastic.
Right. But he got his popularity to do that. And I'm hearing from people that people are like film stars or the new version of that, or that talent, I guess is what people call it, are coming through more and more from having grown their own audiences, because people know that they are liked by the public and therefore they will market well. I was speaking to I think it was on the plane somewhere recently. Where are we again?
I'm not sure. I was going to ask you.
They were saying that actors now are having challenges getting gigs
because they don't have big enough following.
A big social following.
So that's been happening for a long time. Okay. It started at the commercial level, so not big stars. And it was unfortunate and insidious. It was unfortunate that you needed to have a following to even really get an audition, or at least to have a chance of landing the role. And then they started putting into contracts that, we'll pay you 30 grand to be in this, national commercial, but you are required to post about it 10 times or whatever. And we control the content of those posts. And so you had these people that had worked really hard to build, a 20,000 person following or whatever. This was years ago when 20,000 was reasonably significant, and it might be 100,000 or whatever. It wasn't influencers. It was just actors that had somehow managed to get enough followers to But then they were being used for free marketing for the marketing. They were being paid to do marketing and then forced to market the marketing.
Marketing.
Yeah. So but now that has moved all the way up the chain to feature films. It's a little less requirement. It's like the old requirement where actors' contracts included press junkets.
Yeah.
Like you must do the press.
That I kind of was aware of. I just don't think I was totally clued into the fact that now actors like new breaking onto the scene, you can't like just do it from an audition.
No, you're not going to get discovered.
You can, but like
you're not
in some cases, but in general, you have to have proved yourself on social first, which is it's not even social media anymore. Some people are calling it. I think it's Gary V. Because the social component has actually gone, and you're just being fed things that you're interested in by the algorithm. I like it too. It explains a lot more of why it behaves the way that it does. We first got onto Facebook and stuff because we wanted to connect with our old school friends.
Yeah,
but it now isn't that kind of animal.
Instagram won't show you your friends' posts anymore.
No, it shows you things that it knows that you're into.
Which apparently I'm not into any of my friends. So